Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney. On this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. I don't know. There's somebody running heavy machinery outside, because why wouldn't they be? But I want to get a video in the can for tomorrow, so this is very important. So I'm gonna hopefully you can hear me okay. Hopefully this microphone does not pick up all of that situation. Now, real quick, I posted a short, just a very quick 35-second short of a secondary chicken coop we're making here on the farm. My farm manager's making. I'm not making. I don't want to take credit. And he's using some natural wood from the land clear project we had to do last fall to make room, about 1/4 of an acre, for our solar array. And I think it looked pretty cool. Now, obviously, the whole thing is not out of natural wood. It's just partially made out of wood from the property. He obviously bought in some materials as well. But I thought it looked awesome. It's not 100% done. It's automated. It's got a light-activated coop door. You know, when the sun is high enough, the chickens will want to go out. The coop opens, and when dusk falls, the chickens put themselves away, and the door closes, and it's amazing. And they eat. Oh my God, they eat so many ticks. I don't know if you live somewhere where ticks are a problem. We're relatively close to Lyme, New Hampshire, where Lyme disease was first found or born or released by the government, depending on who you ask. But it's a huge problem here, and ticks are exploding. Like the tick population here killed almost all of the baby moose born last year or 2 years ago. That's how heavy they were, but they were like, the tick load was heavy enough that it was killing the juvenile moose, which is tragic in a variety of ways. Anyways, what I'm saying here is, I put up a short about a farm thing because a couple of people told me to post about the farm. I don't really know if that's a good idea because it's not employment law related, and everybody who's here is here for employment law content. So I need your thoughts on if those shorts should keep going up or if they should not. And I'm pretty okay with the answer being like, hey, this is an employment law channel. Don't post farm stuff. And I would say to that, yeah, that makes sense. But I'll be guided by the wisdom of the crowd on this one. You folks let me know. The faithful of the channel, I trust in you and your judgment. Now, we must provide a service here. We had a video yesterday about pro se litigants in federal court, and it got a lot of comments, many comments. And I wanted to do a grab bag video touching upon a couple of those comments because I wanted to answer as many as I could. And realistically, I'm just not going to be able to get to that many of them. So we'll start with Lakers in 5. YouTube user Lakers in 5, which seems unlikely. I feel like LeBron's really never realized his full potential. But I'm kidding. I'm sure he's a great dude who just really wants that money from China. He actually has done amazing things for his community. I should be fair to him. He's done great things for his community. He just doesn't have the best stance on re-education camps for certain kinds of Muslims in China. Lakers in 5 says, what are the pros and cons of retaining a lawyer hourly from a lawyer's perspective? Well, they do things differently versus retaining them on contingency. Okay, so 2 answers here. What should happen, and what I'll say happens with our firm, and then what I fear will happen sometimes. So when a client calls us up, this actually happened not so long ago. A client called us up, and they're like, hey, I want to hire you to represent me in my case. And we looked at the case. We said, hey, we would love to. And we made a primarily contingent offer to represent them on the case. And they said, that's so great. Thank you so much. I would love to hire you. I noticed in your retainer agreement that I have the right to hire you on an hourly basis if I so desire. And I said, you do. Yeah, it's expensive. I mean, it's partner time is $1,160 an hour, and associate time is, I think it's $800 an hour now. And non-attorneys are $125 an hour. It's a lot of money. And the client said, sure, it is going to be a lot of money, but my case is worth even more money. And I happen to be a gentleman of wealth and taste, and I own many leather-bound books, and we can do this. Like, I want to keep 100% of what I win in my case, and I feel strongly about my case, and I feel very confident about my case, and I feel confident about your representation, so, like, let's do it. Let's go. And, of course, he said, okay. That's, of course. Was I bummed out? Yeah, of course. I mean, listen, do I mind if somebody pays us hourly at an amazing hourly rate to represent them? No, it doesn't make me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I would prefer to work on the contingency, right? I mean, emotionally, I prefer it, and my wallet prefers it. I think that when we take a case, we can do an amazing job. And turn that case into a great recovery more often than not. And that means that we get our cut, and that cut will be sizable. And I like that. I like that a lot. I find it to be very gratifying. But that being said, the client has the right to pay hourly. And so we represented that client hourly, and we did everything just as we would normally. We always track our hours, so I didn't have to like tell the team, hey, this one's hourly, because you have to track your hours no matter what, because you might end up applying for attorney's fees later on, right? So it doesn't make a difference. You don't have to go tell the attorneys like, hey, this is hourly, track your hours, right? The team just takes the case and does exactly everything they're supposed to do, and it's the same whether they're on a contingency or whether they're on hourly, right? They're still under the same onus, which is to do everything they can to reduce risk and add value. That's the job, right? Now, they do everything the same, so there's no difference functionally on our end, besides me being a little bit sad. But it's not like we would dodge that case. Like, obviously, it's not our ideal, but we do it. We get why that client wanted that. It's the right thing to do. That client needed to be helped, and has the right to dictate on what terms he was helped, right? However, I will tell you that I've definitely seen firms where they will milk that hourly rate horrifically, and there'll be a lot less thought put into what will or will not win that case, because they don't have a piece of the case. Now, that always really bothered me, and I mean, I couldn't stay at a place like that, right? Like, that's just not right. It's not right in a variety of ways, right? It's unethical. It is also common, if I'm being honest with you. Like, there's definitely attorneys who will do that, who get excited about that. There's attorneys, and I'll tell people straight up. People be like, listen, because I'll turn down a case sometimes. Somebody's like, well, can I pay you hourly? And I'll say, no, well, I don't have to take your hourly money because I actually already turned down your case. If I accept a case and someone's like, but I want to pay you hourly, then I'm kind of stuck and I got to take the hourly. But if I say, I don't want your case, I don't want to represent you, and then they say, well, what about hourly? The response is, no, and you shouldn't want to hire me hourly if I told you I don't believe in the case enough that I would take on a contingency, right? By the same token, people get kind of salty about that. People like, you're not living up to your word. You know, like you said, you know, you would have to take it hourly if somebody wants it hourly. It's not, I don't have to take a case. There's no case that I have to take. If I do take a case and somebody wants it on an hourly basis, then we feel bound, and a couple jurisdictions agree that we are bound to take an hourly basis if that's what the client wants. And so that's in our retainer agreement. But if we don't accept a case, we don't have to take a case just because you're like, well, I want to pay hourly, right? We're not a government agency. We don't have to take your business. Now, a lot of times people get upset about that and they'll ask for a referral to another attorney who will take their money. And I definitely know those attorneys, but I hate sending them someone with a fat hourly check. It's going to pay them on a questionable case. I hate doing that. And like I hate it a lot less if I can have a conversation with the client and say like, hey, there's a lot of risk here. Like, I think you're right. I think this case should win. I just think there's so much risk here that I think the case might win less often than it loses, right? And I don't feel comfortable taking your money in that scenario. And the client can say, and if I really believe the client understands that, because sometimes clients they'll stare at you while you're saying that, and they'll say, I hear everything you're saying, but this is a sure thing, right? And you're just like, your ability to evaluate this claim is negligible. Not mocking you. I'm not saying you're stupid or uneducated. I'm saying you haven't evaluated claims of this type before. You don't know what goes into making a good one. You don't know what it looks like to fight one out. You don't know what the risks are. You just have no capability. It would be akin to me trying to rebuild a double clutch system. Wouldn't know the first thing. There's some gears, I think. I'm not even sure of that, right? So I get uncomfortable with that. But if someone does have an understanding, they're like, okay, there's a lot of risk here, but I feel really strongly about this. I want to take that risk. Then I would say sure, and I would refer them somebody hourly. I think there's a lot of attorneys out there who would just milk someone on an hourly budget. Listen, I see defense counsel do it all the time. And notably, like defense counsel, their clients have a lot bigger budget to pay. But, their clients are also larger and have more leverage and have people working at the company with a higher level understanding of how to hire and manage attorneys. So, there's a lot going on there. Now, Lakers in 5, I hope that answers your question. Essentially, it comes down to what is the quality of the attorney you're dealing with, in my opinion. We have a question here from YouTube user Yo-Yo Dine, who says, reasonable litigants don't usually proceed pro se voluntarily. They do so out of circumstance and perhaps to a lesser extent ignorance. What do federal courts disfavor? Employees as opposed to management and corporations. What do federal courts strongly dislike? Employment law cases. I do feel that's true. Excuse me. What do federal courts hate? Pro se litigants. I also feel that's true. But Yo-Yo Dine goes on. But that 90-day claims processing rule is incredibly short. Fair point. As you noted before, Vince, it is effectively even shorter since most firms won't reasonably consider a case in the last few weeks. In some jurisdictions, e.g. the Midwest, many actual employment law firms, as opposed to PI firms claiming they can do complex employment litigation, charge for consultations. I hate it. I hate it when employment firms charge for consultations. And many do not offer representation on a contingency basis. That's wild to me. I've heard... I've heard that there's a firm in the Midwest offering a very interesting retainer agreement where they say they will take 25% pure contingency or their hourly rate, whichever is higher. I don't believe that can be true. Seems like a nasty rumor, but I have many questions about that. Let's go back to Yo-Yo Dine's question. Even reasonable hybrid fee arrangements are rare. That is unfortunate. To some extent, it is hard to blame them given how adverse these sorts of cases, the courts, the Sixth Circuit, can be, but ultimately this leaves people who suffer discrimination and retaliation without representation within the time needed to file in federal district court. Everything you're saying is true, Yo-Yo Dine. I want to make one note. we certainly run cases in what I would view as the Midwest, and I will say this: it has been very lucrative for us. So I don't want anyone to leave that statement from Yoyodyne thinking that like discrimination claims are dead in the water in the Midwest if you're going to federal court. That is strangely not how I feel about that, although I think everything Yoyodyne said is largely true. I just want to clarify that the Midwest has been very good to me in a variety of ways. I don't know what that means. No, listen, we do like running cases in the Midwest. And part of why we run cases in the Midwest is because there is a shortfall of employment attorneys that we view as viable. We don't generally set up shop next to an employment firm that we respect. But if we look at a market and we say, oh boy, this is a real collection of losers in terms of the representation on offer in this area, that's I tend at that point to stop pushing people to go with local counsel as I normally do and say, yeah, it's possible we're a decent option for you given what's going on around. Yeah, this is a lot of fuckery, and we'd be happy to give you a free consultation. So I just want to clarify. Yoyodyne makes great points, but the Midwest, it's not a terrible place to have a discrimination claim, believe it or not. And the last question I'm going to address here is from YouTube user Carol Mosier, who says, Vince, it's not easy or affordable to obtain an employment attorney. As you are aware, most employment attorneys charge $5,000 to $10,000 up front as a retainer and then take 40 to 50% of what you win. I pause real quick. There are local firms, I believe, in some parts of the country who are taking 35%, maybe even as low as 33%, and not taking any money up front. Now, the big difference is those firms are not covering your expenses. Usually, in my experience, they are fronting your expenses or having you pay expenses as you go. But I think there are still, like if you're in Chicago or if you're there's one or two options in New York City that do pure contingency. I know one of them. I was friendly with the gentleman, the attorney who founded the firm. He had, it's somewhat humorous, he had a very lucrative, successful male modeling career, and then he became an attorney and founded a very large and successful employment law firm where they do pure contingency, and they launched some great attorneys. Marjorie Mesidor, who recently worked, who became a partner in the Wigdor firm, and who I think the world of, she worked on the Sean Puffy Combs case. And her efforts led to among other attorneys, her efforts led to an amazing result for her client. So, there are still some contingency firms out there. Pure contingency. There's lots of hybrid contingency firms out there. That hybrid contingency at this point is, I think, the baseline for the industry. This is the most common offering on display. I think the industry as a whole figured out that if you charge something up front, you get rid of a lot of liars, and your attorneys, your staff will be treated far better. There's something about pure contingency that causes a lot of client on attorney abuse to take place that the industry just kind of can't stomach anymore. I mean, we can't keep attorneys in the industry, and the client on attorney abuse is a huge piece of why. And you eliminate 80-90% of that if you charge something up front, if I'm being honest. So I think that's a big piece of why, Carol, I think a lot of firms are charging something up front now. Carol goes on, and let's face it, there are very few employment attorneys out there, maybe 2 or 3 in each city if you're lucky. My addition was if you're lucky. 2 or 3 in each city, I'd be thrilled. And she goes on, and like 4 or 5 national firms. I agree with that. So most pro se litigants take their case to federal court not because they think it is easy or they are smarter than your average attorney. They do so out of necessity. Carol is correct. I know. Carol, you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. I agree with everything you're both saying. You're making a great point here. And I think in the video, I did not properly touch upon this. Necessity does lead to pro se litigation, and that is a reality. Carol goes on, I think the federal government should appoint public employment attorneys to employees that can't afford them, like they do in criminal trials. Interesting. So I'll say this, the government is not great at fielding talented attorneys. I've never let me think of how to say this. I have never interacted with an attorney that worked for city, state, or federal government and walked away from that interaction saying to myself, boy, that one's a real rising star. Not saying they're bad, but generally they work for the government for a reason. And even if they say that reason is loan forgiveness, it's not. It's not. Because the math on loan forgiveness versus working in plaintiff side employment law does not add up. Like, if you have, let's go wild and see, you have like $350,000 in student loans, and you're like, I'm going to go work in the public sector for 10 years and get loan forgiveness. You would, the disparity between what you make in the public sector working for the government versus what you would make in a private plaintiff side employment law firm would much more outstrip the value of having your loans forgiven, and you would escape a tremendous amount of interest over time if you're being intelligent about your loans and paying them back, and it just wouldn't make sense. Like, it clearly, if your goal is to be a prosecutor, it makes sense. You want to be a prosecutor, you want to get out from under your loans, you work in the public sector as a prosecutor, you get out from your loans. But if you're like, I want to work in employment law, and you have three options: you can work for the government and get public sector loan forgiveness, or you can work defense side and get $1,600, $1,800, whatever it is per hour, or you can work plaintiff side and get like 35, 40, 50%, whatever your firm charges and whatever your firm gives you of that percentage. Let me assure you that you will pay off your student loans, I think I can say exponentially faster in defense side or plaintiff side employment law than you will as a public sector employee. There is just no comparison to the earning potential or the career path, right? Like, defense attorneys earn great all the way through. Plaintiff's attorneys, they don't always earn great early on, but they get huge amounts of training and experience. And by their third year, I mean, they're fully operable. Like, I think, if I recall correctly, I think I worked for other firms for a total of 20 months before I started my first firm many, many years ago. And I sold that firm for a rather significant profit. It went well. I listen, did I know everything that I know today? No. What do I wish I'd known more? Yeah. Oh yeah. Do I think I helped a lot of people anyway? I do, and the balance sheet reflects that, right? Do I think I could have helped them more if I knew more, if I was calmer, if I had a greater depth of strategy? Maybe. Listen, maybe. But it's notable that 20 months in, we could do it, right? I had a couple other attorneys with me, and we were winning. We were making money. We were helping people, and clients were walking in the door, and they were happy to sign up, and it was a feel-good hit. You could just say, pure contingency, let's go. Working in the most diverse neighborhood in the nation, right? And it was awesome. It was awesome. A lot of fun. And at 9 p.m., the bartender would lean over and be like, Abogado, Attorney White, so great to have you here. Could you go home now? I'm like, oh, I'm not drunk. And you're like, no, I know, but it's after 9 p.m. and I'd like you to go home. Okay. He's like, yeah, come back tomorrow. We love having you until 9 p.m. Okay. You're the boss. I'll go home. It was just a great neighborhood. It was a great time. And I miss it. But I digress. Yeah. I worry about the quality of public service employees. And I'm basing that on legal aid. Like legal aid and public defenders. The level of representation, the quality of representation that criminal clients receive from those attorneys is more often than not a crime all its own, in my opinion. And is a great source of racial and demographic and economic inequity in our country. And I get why the system exists, but there needs to be some kind of flight to quality, some kind of system where bad attorneys get weeded out, attorneys who take ridiculous settlement deals that don't even make sense on cases they should absolutely try. Like those attorneys are bad people who, like, not saying they should be drugged into the street and shot, but if somebody was dragging one into a street and looked like they might shoot them, I would be like, hey, let's make sure this person's guilty first. We want to be sure. Let's give them a good defense. Maybe they didn't give anyone else a good defense, but let's give this person a good defense. You can't go straight to the death penalty without a damn good defense. I need to see who they failed. I need to hear how they failed their clients. I'm being facetious. No one should receive the death penalty. You can't trust government to give people the death penalty. It's just not gonna work out. Anyways, Carol, Yo-Yo Dine, and Lakers in 5. Lakers never in 5, my friend. Lakers never in 5. Lakers out. I'm totally kidding. LeBron seems like a great guy. And you know, Kobe seemed great aside from the whole rape thing, which is pretty big, kind of a stumbling block for me. Oddly seemed like a great father, which just, I guess, goes to show the world is really freaking confusing. Shaq seems cool. Seems like a great dude. I got nothing negative to say about Shaq. Nothing. I can't think of one negative word. Oh, he had a bad video game once. He had a bad video game when I was a kid, and I think my friends spent money on his video game because they thought he was the coolest guy ever, and that game was bad. But in all honesty, Shaq's pretty awesome. He probably deserved that money, so fair enough. All right, everybody. Tell me your thoughts. I said a lot of things here. Took some hot takes that were mostly to be funny. I don't want you to kill public sector attorneys, public defenders. I don't want you to drag them in the street and kill them. Sincerely, do not want you to do that. Give me your thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment down below. I am required, at pain of losing my head, to say to you, like, subscribe, comment down below, share the channel so it can grow. I don't know. Why? Give me the thumbs down. I'm an asshole. I deserve it. Take care.